coffee already boosts alertness, metabolism, and dopamine. But new research shows something far more shocking. Scientists have discovered that when you add specific natural powders to your morning coffee, the effects are not just slightly better, they are dramatically more powerful. In fact, several peer-reviewed studies show that simple, inexpensive powders can triple antioxidant activity, stabilize blood sugar, strengthen the gut lining, reduce inflammation markers, improve brain signaling, and even increase fat burning far beyond what coffee can do alone. And the craziest part, most people have no idea that the world's healthiest populations have been mixing powders into hot drinks for hundreds of years, long before modern wellness trends caught up. But here's what shocked researchers most. Certain powders interact with coffee's polyphenols in a way that creates entirely new metabolic compounds. Compounds that don't exist when you consume coffee or the powder separately. It's like the ingredients fuse inside your monk and form a brand new health booster. MR scans show improved blood flow to the brain within minutes. Continuous glucose monitors show smoother post-meal curves. Stress response hormones drop, inflammation markers fall, and snorts, some powders even activate a little-known metabolic pathway called AMPK, often referred to as the longevity switch. When older adults in a Stanford review added these powders to their coffee daily, researchers saw improvements in energy, digestion, cognitive clarity, and metabolic flexibility. And snorts yet, one powder stood out above all the others. Its effect was so strong that researchers repeated the experiment 3 times to make sure the results weren't a mistake. Each time the same thing happened. Coffee alone improved metabolism, but coffee plus this one powder sparked a biochemical reaction so dramatic that scientists said it may redefine how we understand morning beverages in adults over 50. In Snorts, this video, we will reveal the 5 powders that transform ordinary coffee into a metabolic powerhouse, ranked from least to most powerful. And stick around because powder number 1 was shown in studies to trigger a metabolic response that shocked even the lead researchers. All references are listed in the description below. Before we begin, how old are you and where are you watching from today? We reply to every comment like a real wellness lab. Now let's start with powder number 5, the one that instantly upgrades your coffee's antioxidant strength before you even take the first sip, or Snorts. Number 5, raw cacao powder, the ancient brain protector that modern science finally validated. The story of raw cacao powder in coffee starts with a fascinating discovery made by researchers studying the Cuna people of Panama, who drink up to 5 cups of cacao-infused beverages daily and have virtually 0 cases of heart disease, stroke, or dementia, despite many of them living well into their 90s. When Harvard researchers analyzed their blood, they found something absolutely shocking. These indigenous people had nitric oxide levels typically seen in healthy 30-year-olds, even though many were in their 80s. Raw cacao powder, which is different from processed cocoa powder you find in the baking aisle, contains the highest concentration of antioxidants of any food on the planet, measuring an ORAC value of 95,000 per 100 grime, which absolutely destroys blueberries at just 4,300. But here's where it gets really interesting for your morning coffee. When you combine raw cacao with coffee, something magical happens at the molecular level that researchers at Cornell University just discovered last year. The theramine in cacao, which is a gentle stimulant similar to caffeine but without the jitters, actually modulates how your body processes the caffeine in coffee, creating what scientists call a sustained energy curve instead of the typical spike and crash. This means you get steady, focused energy for 6 to 8 hours instead of the usual 2 to 3 hour coffee buzz, followed by that afternoon slump we all hate. The flavonoids in raw cacao, particularly epicin, cross the blood-brain barrier and directly stimulate the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, which is basically miracle grow for your brain cells. Snorts. A study published in Nature Neuroscience found that people who consumed 20 grams of raw cacao daily for 12 weeks improved their memory test scores by 37% and showed increased blood flow to the hippocampus, the brain's memory center. To get these benefits in your coffee, you want to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw cacao powder to your hot coffee. But here's the crucial part. The water temperature should be below 170 degree F to preserve the delicate compounds. So let your coffee cool for about 2 minutes after brewing before stirring in the cacao. The powder won't dissolve completely like instant cocoa. So use a small whisk or milk frother to blend it properly, creating a rich, slightly bitter chocolate coffee that ancient Mayans would have considered the drink of the gods. For maximum benefits, make sure you're buying raw organic cacao powder that hasn't been Dutch processed or alkalized, as these processes destroy up to 90% of the beneficial compounds. The best time to have your cacao coffee is in the morning on an empty stomach or 30 minutes before any mentally demanding task, as the cognitive benefits peak about 2 hours after consumption and last for up to 6 hours. According to EEG brain scans, the recommended dose for optimal benefits without any digestive issues is 15 to 20 grams per day, which is about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons. And you'll want to start with just 1 teaspoon for the first week to let your body adjust to the brewing content. Get ready to discover something even more powerful as we move to number 4, snorts. Number 4, Ceylon cinnamon, the blood sugar stabilizer that transforms your coffee into medicine. Scientists at the University of California made a discovery so shocking about Ceylon cinnamon that they initially thought their instruments were malfunctioning. When they tested blood sugar responses in people who added just half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon to their morning coffee, they found it reduced post-meal blood glucose spikes by up to 29% and improved insulin sensitivity by nearly 20% after just 40 days. This isn't the regular cache of cinnamon you find at grocery stores, which can actually be harmful in large doses due to high coumarin content. Ceylon cinnamon, also known as true cinnamon, contains barely traceable amounts of coumarin and instead packs powerful compounds called proionidins that act like a natural version of metformin, the diabetes drug. What makes Ceylon cinnamon in coffee particularly fascinating is a phenomenon researchers call the entrage effect, where the polyphenols in coffee actually enhance the bioavailability of cinnamon's active compounds by up to 300% compared to taking cinnamon supplements alone. A groundbreaking study from the American Diabetes Association followed 343 pre-diabetic adults for 90 days and found that those who added 1 gram of Ceylon cinnamon to their morning coffee not only stabilized their blood sugar, but actually reversed their pre-diabetic status in 41% of cases, something that typically requires prescription medication. The mechanism is absolutely brilliant. Ceylon cinnamon contains a water-soluble compound called methyl hydroxycone polymer that mimics insulin activity at the cellular level, essentially tricking your cells into absorbing glucose more efficiently while simultaneously slowing down the breakdown of carbohydrates in your digestive tract. But here's the really shocking part that most people don't know. Ceylon cinnamon in coffee creates what researchers call a metabolic window that lasts for up to 12 hours, meaning your body continues to burn fat more efficiently throughout the entire day, with one study showing a 17% increase in resting metabolic rate. The anti-inflammatory effects are equally impressive, with research from the Journal of Medicinal Food showing that Ceylon cinnamon reduces C-reactive protein, a key inflammation marker, by up to 32% when consumed daily in coffee for 8 weeks. To properly prepare Ceylon cinnamon coffee for maximum benefits, you need to add AA4 to half a teaspoon of finely ground Ceylon cinnamon powder directly to your coffee grounds before brewing, which allows the hot water to extract the fat-soluble compounds that wouldn't dissolve if you just stirred it into already brewed coffee. Snorts. If you're using a French press or pour-over method, this works perfectly, but for drip coffee makers, you can create a cinnamon coffee concentrate by simmering 1 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon in 8 ounces of water for 10 minutes, then straining and adding this to your regular coffee. The timing matters significantly. Research shows that having Ceylon cinnamon coffee 15 to 20 minutes before your first meal of the day maximizes its blood sugar stabilizing effects and can reduce your glucose response to breakfast by up to 40%. Quality is absolutely crucial here because most cinnamon sold in stores is cashew cinnamon from China or Indonesia, which contains up to 1/200 times more coumarin than Ceylon cinnamon from Sri Lanka, and consuming more than a teaspoon daily of cassia can cause liver damage. Look for Ceylon cinnamon that's labeled from Sri Lanka, has a tan brown color rather than the reddish brown of cassia, and has a sweeter, more complex flavor profile that actually enhances coffee rather than making it harsh or bitter. Snorts. The optimal therapeutic dose based on clinical trials is 1 to 1.5 grams daily, which is about half a teaspoon. And you should see noticeable improvements in energy stability and sugar cravings within 7 to 10 days, with full metabolic benefits appearing after 6 weeks of consistent use. Now prepare yourself for number 3, which involves a powder that literally grows new brain cells. Number 3, lion's mane mushroom powder, the nerve growth stimulator that reverses brain aging. Snorts. Japanese researchers at Tuca University discovered something so extraordinary about lion's mane mushroom that it fundamentally changed how we think about brain aging when they gave older adults with mild cognitive impairment just 3 g of lion's mane powder daily in their morning beverage for 16 weeks. Not only did their cognitive function improve by an average of 12 points on standardized tests, but MRA scans showed actual regeneration of neurons in areas of the brain typically devastated by aging. This isn't some mystical claim. Lion's mane contains 2 unique compounds called hirosinones and irinosines that are small enough to cross the blood-brain barrier and directly stimulate nerve growth factor production, essentially forcing your brain to create new neurons and repair damaged ones. Something scientists thought was impossible in adult brains just 20 years ago. When you add lion's mane powder to coffee, the caffeine actually enhances the absorption of these neurotrophic compounds by increasing blood flow to the brain by up to 30%, creating what researchers at the University of Queensland call a neuroplasticity window, where your brain becomes hyperactive to learning and forming new neural connections. A double-blind study from Japan involving 50 adults aged 50 to 80 found that those who consumed lion's mane coffee daily for 12 weeks improved their scores on memory tests by 23%, pattern recognition by 31%, and most shockingly, showed increased hippocampal volume on brain scans, literally growing the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning. The mechanism is absolutely fascinating. Lion's mane triggers the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor and nerve growth factor, which act like fertilizer for brain cells, but it also reduces brain inflammation by inhibiting the production of inflammatory cytokines that typically accumulate with age and stress. Research from Malaysia published in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences found that lion's mane compounds actually stimulate the production of myelin, the protective coating around nerves that typically degrades with age, leading to slower thinking and poor memory. Participants who took lion's mane for 6 months showed a 40% improvement in nerve conduction velocity. But here's what will blow your mind. A study from South Korea found that lion's mane coffee drinkers had 67% lower rates of mild cognitive decline over a 5-year period compared to regular coffee drinkers, suggesting this mushroom doesn't just improve current brain function, but actually protects against future deterioration. The preparation method is crucial for extracting the bioactive compounds. You need to use dual extracted lion's mane powder, which means it's been processed with both hot water and alcohol to pull out both water-soluble and fat-soluble compounds, as using just regular dried mushroom powder gives you maybe 10% of the active ingredients. Add 1 to 2 teaspoons of dual extracted lion's mane powder to your coffee after brewing when it's cooled to about 160 degrees F, as higher temperatures can denature some of the delicate nerve growth factors. The powder has a slightly sweet, savory flavor that many describe as similar to seafood or lobster, which surprisingly complement coffee's bitterness perfectly, creating a rich, omi-like depth that many people actually prefer to regular coffee. For maximum cognitive benefits, Research suggests taking lion's mane coffee in the morning on an empty stomach or 30 minutes before any learning activity, as the neuroplasticity effects peak about 90 minutes after consumption and remain elevated for 4 to 6 hours. The optimal dose based on clinical trials is 2 to 3 g of extract daily, which is about 1 to 1 and 1-2 teaspoons, and most people report noticing improved mental clarity and focus within 7 to 14 days. With memory improvements becoming apparent after 4 to 6 weeks. Quality matters enormously. Look for organic lion's mane powder that specifies it contains at least 30% polysaccharides and 15% beta-glucans, as these are the primary active compounds, and avoid products that don't list their extraction method or compound percentages. Some people experience what researchers call the awakening period in the first week, where you might feel slightly spacey or have vivid dreams as your brain creates new neural pathways. But this typically passes quickly and is actually a sign the mushroom is working. Brace snorts yourself for the next powder, which most people think is just for bodybuilders, but actually has shocking effects on brain health and longevity. Number snorts 2, creatine monohydrate, the cellular energy booster that protects your brain like armor. The medical community was absolutely stunned when a landmark study from the University of Sydney revealed that vegetarians who added just 5 gigs of creatine to their morning routine improved their IQ scores by an average of 15 points and enhanced their working memory by 40% in just 6 weeks. Not from going to the gym, but from supercharging their brain cells with cellular energy. Creatine isn't just for muscles, and this is what 99% of people don't understand. Your brain uses 20% of your body's total energy, despite being only 2% of your body weight. And creatine is literally the rapid energy currency your neurons use to fire properly, think clearly, and form memories. When you add creatine to coffee, something remarkable happens that researchers at the University of Chichester just discovered. The caffeine actually enhances creatine uptake into brain tissue by 28% through increased cerebral blood flow, while the creatine completely eliminates the energy crash typically associated with caffeine by maintaining steady ATP levels in your neurons. A groundbreaking 10-year study following 6,000 adults over age 60 found that those who consumed 5 grams of creatine daily had 70% lower rates of cognitive decline, 50% less brain shrinkage on MR scans, and maintained reaction times similar to people 20 years younger. The science is mind-blowing. Creatine acts as a cellular buffer system, instantly replenishing ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy molecule every cell in your body uses. But more importantly, it protects brain cells from exotoxicity, the process where overstimulated neurons literally burn themselves out from too much activity. Research from the Journal of Neuroscience found that creatine supplementation increased brain creatine levels by up to 39%, which directly correlated with improvements in complex problem solving, mathematical processing, and most surprisingly, emotional resilience under stress. But here's the shocking part that almost nobody talks about. Creatine in coffee has been shown to reduce symptoms of depression by up to 52% in treatment-resistant cases, with researchers at the University of Utah finding it works by energizing the mitochondria in brain cells that typically underperform in depressed individuals. The neuroprotective snorts effects are equally impressive, with studies showing that people with higher brain creatine levels have up to 60% less damage from traumatic brain injuries and recover significantly faster from concussions, acting like a cellular airbag for your neurons. To properly use creatine in coffee, you need to understand that creatine monohydrate, the most researched form with over 6,000 studies, doesn't dissolve well in liquid, so you'll need to stir it thoroughly into hot coffee where it suspends better than in cold liquids. Snorts. Add 5 grams, which is about 1 teaspoon, to your morning coffee. And here's a pro tip. Add it to coffee that has a splash of milk or cream, as the fat content helps with absorption and masks the slightly gritty texture that some people find unpleasant. The timing doesn't matter as much as consistency, because creatine works through saturation, meaning you need to take it daily for about 4 weeks to fully saturate your muscle and brain tissue, after which you'll maintain those levels with daily dosing. Unlike other supplements that you feel immediately, creatine is cumulative. But most people report noticing improved mental endurance and reduced brain fog after about 7 to 10 days, with full cognitive benefits appearing after 3 to 4 weeks. For the first week, some people do a loading phase of 20 gram daily divided into 4 doses to saturate faster. But research shows this isn't necessary and can cause temporary water retention and digestive issues. The quality of creatine matters significantly. Look for Crepure, a German-made creatine monohydrate that's tested for purity and doesn't contain the contaminants found in cheaper Chinese creatine that can cause stomach issues and headaches. One important note about creatine coffee: you'll likely gain 2 to 4 lbs in the first 2 weeks, but this isn't fat. It's water being pulled into your muscle cells along with the creatine, which actually improves cellular hydration and function. The safety profile is extraordinary, with studies following people taking creatine daily for up to 21 years, showing no negative effects and actually showing improved kidney function markers, completely debunking the myth that creatine damages kidneys. Get ready for the #1 powder that will absolutely revolutionize not just your mornings, but potentially add years to your life. Number 1, glycine powder, the longevity molecule that turns back your biological clock. Scientists at the National Institute on Aging made a discovery about glycine that shattered everything we thought we knew about aging when they gave older adults just 3 g of this simple amino acid before bed. Not only did their sleep quality improve by 60%, but their cells started producing collagen at rates typically seen in people 30 years younger. Their inflammation markers dropped by 45%, and most shockingly, their telomeres actually lengthened, a biological marker of cellular youth that we didn't think was possible to reverse naturally. Glycine, snorts, is the smallest amino acid in existence. So small, it can penetrate virtually every tissue in your body. And while your body can make some glycine, research shows we're deficient by about 10 grams daily based on what our ancestors consumed when they ate nose to tail. Getting glycine from bone broths, organ meats, and collagen-rich cuts we rarely eat today. When you add glycine to your morning coffee, you're essentially giving your body the missing link it needs for over 100 critical processes. From building glutathione, your master antioxidant, to creating creatine naturally, to most importantly, triggering a process called autophagy, where your cells literally clean out damaged proteins and regenerate themselves. A jaw-dropping study from Japan followed 1,200 adults for 8 years and found that those with the highest glycine intake had a 74% lower risk of dying from any cause, with researchers calculating that optimal glycine consumption could add an average of 8 healthy years to human lifespan. The mechanism is absolutely revolutionary. Glycine activates glycine receptors throughout your body that trigger a cascade of anti-aging effects, including increased production of growth hormone by up to 300%, enhanced mitochondrial function by 40%, and most remarkably improved methylation, the process by which your body maintains and repairs DNA. Research from Harvard Medical School found that glycine supplementation literally reverses vascular aging, with participants showing arterial flexibility improvements equivalent to being 12 to 15 years younger after just 12 weeks of supplementation. Snorts, but here's what's really mind-blowing. Glycine in morning coffee has a unique Joule effect where it provides calm mental clarity without sedation, working through NMDA receptors in your brain to enhance focus and learning, while simultaneously reducing anxiety and the jittery effects of caffeine. A study from the Sleep Research Society found that people who took glycine had 50% more deep sleep, the restorative phase where your brain clears out toxic proteins like beta amyloid that cause Alzheimer's. And they woke up feeling refreshed rather than groggy, despite getting the same hours of sleep. The The collagen production benefits are equally shocking. Glycine makes up 33% of collagen, and studies show that taking 10 grams of glycine daily increased collagen synthesis by up to 200%, with visible improvements in skin elasticity, joint flexibility, and wound healing speed that typically decline drastically with age. Snorts. For your morning coffee, add 3 to 5 g of glycine powder, which is about 1 teaspoon, directly to your hot coffee, where it dissolves instantly and completely, adding a subtle sweetness without any sugar or calories. As glycine is the only amino acid that actually tastes sweet rather than bitter or savory. The timing strategy is crucial. Take 3 to 5 grams in your morning coffee for energy and mental clarity. Then another 5 grams in the evening, either in decaf coffee or tea, for the sleep and recovery benefits, as glycine has different effects depending on when you take it due to your circadian rhythm. The quality is important, but simpler than other supplements. Pure glycine powder is just that, pure glycine. So look for pharmaceutical grade or USB grade powder that's been tested for heavy metals and contaminants, avoiding products with fillers, flavors, or other amino acids mixed in. Start with 3 g for the first week to assess tolerance. Though glycine is so safe that studies have used up to 60 grams daily without adverse effects, then increase to 10 grams daily divided between morning and evening for optimal longevity benefits. Most people notice improved sleep quality within 3 days, better skin, and reduced joint pain within 2 weeks, and the deeper anti-aging effects like improved recovery, enhanced mental clarity, and increased energy levels typically become apparent after 4 to 6 weeks of consistent use. The snorts synergy with coffee is particularly powerful because coffee consumption is already associated with longevity, and glycine appears to enhance coffee's beneficial effects while eliminating its few downsides like anxiety and sleep disruption. Research from the University of California showed that glycine plus coffee created a unique metabolic state where fat burning increased by 32% while muscle protein synthesis improved by 28%. Essentially putting your body in an optimal state for both energy production and tissue repair. Snorts. Your morning coffee will never be the same after discovering these 5 powerful powders that transform an ordinary cup into a longevity elixir backed by thousands of scientific studies. Starting tomorrow morning, you can begin with just 1 powder and gradually add others as your body adapts, creating your own personalized coffee cocktail that addresses your specific health goals, whether that's sharper mental focus, better blood sugar control, improved sleep, or simply aging more gracefully. The snorts combined effects of these powders create a synergy that researchers are only beginning to understand, with preliminary studies suggesting that people who use multiple powders together experience benefits far exceeding what you'd expect from simply adding up their individual effects.